Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. Rome, 4. She.1950. TEG overments signatory hereto, being members of the Council of Europe. Considering the Universal Declaration of Human Rights proclaimed by the General Assembly of the United Nations on the 10th of December 1948. Considering that this declaration aims at securing the universal and effective recognition and observance of the rights therein declared. Considering that the aim of the Council of Europe is the achievement of greater unity between its members and that one of the methods by which that aim is to be pursued is the maintenance and further realization of human rights and fundamental freedoms, reaffirming the profound belief in those fundamental freedoms which are the foundation of justice and peace in the world and are best maintained on the one hand by an effective political democracy and on the other by a common understanding and observance of the human rights upon which they depend. Being resolved, as the governments of European countries which are like-minded and have a common heritage of political traditions, ideals, freedom and the rule of law, to take the first steps for the collective enforcement of certain of the rights stated in the Universal Declaration. Have agreed as follows. 6.7. Article 1. Obligation to respect human rights. The high contracting parties shall secure to everyone within the jurisdiction the rights and freedoms defined in Section I of this Convention. Section I. Rights and Freedoms. Article 2. Right to life. 1. Everyone's right to life shall be protected by law. No one shall be deprived of his life intentionally save in the execution of a sentence of a court following his conviction of a crime for which this penalty is provided by law. 2. Deprivation of life shall not be regarded as inflicted in contravention of this article when it results from the use of force which is no more than absolutely necessary. A. In defense of any person from unlawful violence. B. In order to effect a lawful arrest or to prevent the escape of a person lawfully detained. C. In action lawfully taken for the purpose of quelling a riot or insurrection. Article 3. Prohibition of torture. No one shall be subjected to torture or to inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Article 4. Prohibition of slavery and forced labor. 1. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. 2. No one shall be required to perform forced or compulsory labor. 3. For the purpose of this article the term forced or compulsory labor shall not include a. Any work required to be done in the ordinary course of detention imposed according to the provisions of Article 5 of this Convention or during conditional release from such detention. B. Any service of a military character or, in case of conscientious objectors in countries where they are recognized, service exacted instead of compulsory military service. C. Any service exacted in case of an emergency or calamity threatening the life or well-being of the community. D. Any work or service which forms part of normal civic obligations. Article 5. Right to liberty and security. 1. Everyone has the right to liberty and security of person. No one shall be deprived of his liberty save in the following cases and in accordance with a procedure prescribed by law. A. The lawful detention of a person after conviction by a competent court. B. The lawful arrest or detention of a person for non-compliance with the lawful order of a court or in order to secure the fulfillment of any obligation prescribed by law. 8.9. C. The lawful arrest or detention of a person affected for the purpose of bringing him before the competent legal authority on reasonable suspicion of having committed an offense or when it is reasonably considered necessary to prevent his committing an offense or fleeing after having done so. D. The detention of a minor by lawful order for the purpose of educational supervision or his lawful detention for the purpose of bringing him before the competent legal authority. E. The lawful detention of persons for the prevention of the spreading of infectious diseases, of persons of unsound mind, alcoholics or drug addicts or vagrants. F. The lawful arrest or detention of a person to prevent his effecting an unauthorized entry into the country or of a person against whom action is being taken with a view to deportation or extradition. 2. Everyone who is arrested shall be informed promptly, in a language which he understands, of the reasons for his arrest and of any charge against him. 3. Everyone arrested or detained in accordance with the provisions of paragraph 1c of this article shall be brought promptly before a judge or other officer authorized by law to exercise judicial power and shall be entitled to trial within a reasonable time or to release pending trial. Release may be conditioned by guarantees to appear for trial. 4. Everyone who is deprived of his liberty by arrest or detention shall be entitled to take proceedings by which the lawfulness of his detention shall be decided speedily by a court and his release ordered if the detention is not lawful. 5. Everyone who has been the victim of arrest or detention in contravention of the provisions of this article shall have an enforceable right to compensation. Article 6. Right to a fair trial. 1. In the determination of his civil rights and obligations or of any criminal charge against him, everyone is entitled to a fair and public hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial tribunal established by law. Judgment shall be pronounced publicly, but the press and public may be excluded from all or part of the trial in the interests of morals, public order and national security in a democratic society, where the interests of juveniles or the protection of the private life of the parties so require, or to the extent strictly necessary in the opinion of the court in special circumstances where publicity would prejudice the interests of justice. 2. Everyone charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until proved guilty according to law. 3. Everyone charged with a criminal offense has the following minimum rights. A. To be informed promptly, in a language which he understands and in detail, of the nature and cause of the accusation against him. B. To have adequate time and facilities for the preparation of his defense. C. To defend himself in person or through legal assistance of his own choosing, or, if he has not sufficient means to pay for legal assistance, to be given it free when the interests of justice so require. D. To examine or have examined witnesses against him and to obtain the attendance and examination of witnesses on his behalf under the same conditions as witnesses against him. E. To have the free assistance of an interpreter if he cannot understand or speak the language used in court. 10.11. Article 7. No punishment without law. 1. No one shall be held guilty of any criminal offense on account of any act or omission which did not constitute a criminal offense under national or international law at the time when it was committed. Nor shall a heavier penalty be imposed than the one that was applicable at the time the criminal offense was committed. 2. This article shall not prejudice the trial and punishment of any person for any act or omission which, at the time when it was committed, was criminal according to the general principles of law recognized by civilized nations. Article 8. Right to respect for private and family life. 1. Everyone has the right to respect for his private and family life, his home and his correspondence. 2. There shall be no interference by a public authority with the exercise of this right except such as is in accordance with the law and is necessary in a democratic society in the interests of national security, public safety or the economic well-being of the country, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. Article 9. Freedom of thought, conscience and religion. 1. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief, in worship, teaching, practice and observance. 2. Freedom to manifest one's religion or beliefs shall be subject only to such limitations as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interests of public safety, for the protection of public order, health or morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. Article 10. Freedom of expression. 1. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to 1. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers. This article shall not prevent states from requiring the licensing of broadcasting, television or cinema enterprises. 2. The exercise of these freedoms, since it carries with it duties and responsibilities, may be subject to such formalities, conditions, restrictions or penalties as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society, in the interests of national security, territorial integrity or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, for the protection of the reputation or rights of others, for preventing the disclosure of information received in confidence, or for maintaining the authority and impartiality of the judiciary. Article 11. Freedom of assembly and association. 1. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and to freedom of association with others, including the right to form and to join trade unions for the protection of his interests. 12.13. 2. No restrictions shall be placed on the exercise of these rights other than such as are No restrictions shall be placed on the exercise of these rights other than such as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interests of national security or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. This article shall not prevent the imposition of lawful restrictions on the exercise of these rights by members of the armed forces, of the police, or of the administration of the state. Article 12. Right to marry. Men and women of marriageable age have the right to marry and to found a family, according to the national laws governing the exercise of this right. Article 13. Right to an effective remedy. Everyone whose rights and freedoms as set forth in this convention are violated shall have an effective remedy before a national authority, notwithstanding that the violation has been committed by persons acting in an official capacity. Article 14. Prohibition of discrimination. The enjoyment of the rights and freedoms set forth in this convention shall be secured without discrimination on any grounds such as sex, race, color, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, association with a national minority, property, birth or other status. Article 15. Derogation in time of emergency. 1. In time of war or other public emergency threatening the life of the nation, any high contracting party may take measures derogating from its obligations under this convention to the extent strictly required by the exigencies of the situation, provided that such measures are not inconsistent with its other obligations under international law. 2. No derogation from Article 2, except in respect of deaths resulting from lawful acts of war, or from Articles 3, 4, paragraph 1, and 7 shall be made under this provision. 3. Any high contracting party availing itself of this right of derogation shall keep the Secretary-General of the Council of Europe fully informed of the measures which it has taken and the reasons therefor. It shall also inform the Secretary-General of the Council of Europe when such measures have ceased to operate and the provisions of the Convention are again being fully executed. Article 16. Restrictions on political activity of aliens. Nothing in Articles 10, 11 and 14 shall be regarded as preventing the high contracting parties from imposing restrictions on the political activity of aliens. Article 17. Prohibition of abuse of rights. Nothing in this convention may be interpreted as implying for any state, group or person any right to engage in any activity or perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and 14.15. Freedoms set forth herein or at the limitation to a greater extent than is provided for in the Convention. Article 18. Limitation on use of restrictions on rights. The restrictions permitted under this Convention to the said rights and freedoms shall not be applied for any purpose other than those for which they have been prescribed. Section 2. European Court of Human Rights. Article 19. Establishment of the Court. To ensure the observance of the engagements undertaken by the high contracting parties in the Convention and the protocols thereto, there shall be set up a European Court of Human Rights, hereinafter referred to as the Court. It shall function on a permanent basis. Article 20. Number of judges. The Court shall consist of a number of judges equal to that of the high contracting parties. Article 21. Criteria for office. 1. The judges shall be of high moral character and must either possess the qualifications required for appointment to high judicial office or be jurisconsults of recognized competence. 2. The judges shall sit on the court in their individual capacity. 3. During the term of office the judges shall not engage in any activity which is incompatible with their independence, impartiality or with the demands of a full-time office. All questions arising from the application of this paragraph shall be decided by the court. Article 22. Election of judges. The judges shall be elected by the Parliamentary Assembly with respect to each high contracting party by a majority of votes cast from a list of 3 candidates nominated by the high contracting party. Article 23. Terms of office and dismissal. 1. The judges shall be elected for a period of 9 years. They may not be re-elected. 2. The terms of office of judges shall expire when they reach the age of 70. 3. The judges shall hold office until replaced. They shall, however, continue to deal with such cases as they already have under consideration. 1617. 4. No judge may be dismissed from office unless the other judges decide by a majority of 2/3 that that judge has ceased to fulfill the required conditions.